Mahatma Gandhi's luminous leadership finally made the British India quit in 1947. When we gained independence in 1947, nobody believed that India will survive as a democracy. Yet, 7 decades later, 1.25 billion Indians, with all their diversity, have proved those forecasts wrong. The strong edifice of democracy, built by our founding fathers on the 4 pillars of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, has withstood several threats from within and without, and has grown from strength to strength. Fellow citizens, it is the 5th time that I speak to you on the eve of Independence Day. In the past 4 years, I have seen with some satisfaction a stable and progressive democracy, in full play with peaceful transfer of power from one party to another, from one government to another, and from one generation to another. Notwithstanding the different hues of political thought, I have seen the ruling party and the opposition coming together in pursuit of national agenda of development, unity, integrity, and security of the nation. In the just concluded session of Parliament, the passage of Constitution Amendment Bill for the introduction of GST amidst non-partisan and quality parliamentary deliberations is reason enough to celebrate our democratic maturity. In these 4 years, I also saw with some disquiet forces of divisiveness and intolerance trying to raise their ugly head. Attacks on weaker sections that militate against our national ethos are aberrations that need to be dealt with firmly. The collective wisdom of our society and our polity gives me the confidence that such forces will remain marginalized and India's remarkable growth story will continue uninterrupted. The safety and security that we provide to our women and children determines the well-being of the state and society. Every incident of violence against a woman or a child inflicts a wound on the soul of the civilization. We cannot call ourselves a civilized society if we fail in this duty. Fellow citizens, democracy is more than a periodic exercise of choices to elect the government. The great tree of liberty requires constant nourishment through the institutions of democracy. Disruptions, obstructionism, and unmindful pursuit of a divisive political agenda by groups and individuals lead to nothing but institutional travesty of constitutional subversion. Polarizing debates only deepen the fault lines in public discourse. Our Constitution is not only a political or legal document, but an emotional, cultural, and social contract. My distinguished predecessor, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, had said on the eve of Independence Day 50 years ago, and I quote, "We have adopted a democratic constitution. It helps us to maintain our individuality in the face of mounting pressures for standardized thinking and acting. Democratic assemblies serve as safety walls for social tensions and prevent dangerous explosions. In an effective democracy, its members should be willing to accept law and lawful authority. No man, no group can be his or her own or its own lawgiver." Unquote. The Constitution has clearly defined the duties and responsibilities of every organ of the state. It has established ancient Indian ethos of Maryada as far as authorities and institutions of state power are concerned. The spirit of Constitution has to be upheld by adherence to this Maryada by the functionaries in the discharge of their duties. Fellow citizens, one unique feature that has held India together is our respect for each other's cultures, values, and beliefs. The very essence of plurality lies in cherishing our heterogeneity and valuing our diversity. In the networked environment of today, a caring society can only be developed by harmonizing religion with modern science. Swami Vivekananda had once observed, and I quote, "What is needed is a fellow feeling between the different types of religion. Seeing that they all stand or fall together, a fellow feeling which springs from mutual respect and not the condescending, patronizing, niggardly expression of goodwill." Unquote. It is true, as was pointed out in a famous speech made on this very day 69 years ago by Pandit Nehru, that in a nation's history, moments come when we step out from the old to the new, when the soul of a nation finds utterance. But it is also important to realize that such moments are not strokes of luck that come upon us by surprise. A nation can and must strive to create such a moment. We must take destiny in our own hands to build the India of our dreams. Backed by strong political will, we have to create a future which will economically empower 600 million youth, build a digital India, a startup India, and a skilled India. As we build an India of hundreds of smart cities, towns, and villages, we must ensure that they are humane, high-tech, and happy places, leading to the creation of a technology-driven but compassionate society. We should promote and reinforce a scientific temper by questioning our beliefs, which are not compatible with scientific way of thinking. We must learn to challenge the status quo and refuse to accept inefficiency and slipshod work. In a competitive environment, a sense of immediacy and some impatience is a necessary virtue. Fellow citizens, India will grow only when all of India grows. The excluded ones have to be included in a development process. The hurt and the alienated have to be brought back into the mainstream. In this age of technological advance, machines are being pitted against men. The only way to survive this is to acquire knowledge and skills and learn to innovate. Inclusive innovations linked to the aspirations of our people can benefit a wide spectrum of society as well as preserve our diversity. We as a nation must nurture creativity, science and technology. Here, our schools and institutions of higher learning have a special responsibility. We often celebrate the achievements of our ancient past, but it would be wrong to rest on our laurels. It is much more important to look to the future. It is time to join hands to cooperate, innovate, and advance. India has had remarkable growth in recent times, often growing above 8% per annum over the last decade. International agencies have acknowledged India's status as the fastest growing major economy in the world and recognized major improvements in indices of ease of doing business and logistics. The startup movement and the innovative spirit of our young entrepreneurs have also attracted attention. We must build on our strengths so that this lead can be sustained and furthered. A normal monsoon this year gives us reason to cheer, unlike the past 2 years when below normal rains created agrarian distress. The fact that despite 2 consecutive drought years, inflation has remained below 6% and agricultural output has been stable is a testimony of a nation's resilience and to how far we have progressed since independence. Fellow citizens, our foreign policy has shown considerable dynamism in recent times. We have reinvigorated our historic bonds of friendship with traditional partners of Africa and Asia Pacific. We are in the process of forging new relationships based on shared values, mutual benefit with all countries, especially our immediate and extended neighborhood. There will be no stepping back on our neighborhood first policy. Close bonds of history, culture, civilization, and geography provide the people of South Asia with an extraordinary opportunity to carve out a common destiny and to march together towards prosperity. This opportunity must be seized without delay. India's focus in foreign policy will remain on peaceful coexistence and harnessing technology and resources for its economic development. Recent initiatives have enhanced energy security, promoted food security, and created international partnerships to take our flagship development programs forward. अब मैं बचा हुआ हिस्सा हिंदी में पढ़ना चाहूँगा। विश्व में उन आतंकवादी गतिविधियों में तेजी आई है जिनकी जड़ें धर्म के आधार पर लोगों को कट्टर बनाने में छिपी है। ये ताकतें धर्म के नाम पर निर्दोष लोगों की हत्या के अलावा भौगोलिक सीमाओं को बदलने की धमकी भी दे रही हैं, जो विश्व शांति के लिए विनाशकारी सिद्ध हो सकता है। ऐसे समूहों की अमानवीय, मूर्खतापूर्ण और बर्बरतापूर्ण कार्यप्रणाली हाल ही में फ्रांस, बेल्जियम, अमेरिका, नाइजीरिया, कीनिया और हमारे निकट अफगानिस्तान तथा बांग्लादेश में दिखाई दी है। ये ताकतें अब संपूर्ण राष्ट्र समूह के प्रति एक खतरा पैदा कर रही हैं। विश्व को बिना शर्त और एक स्वर में इनका मुकाबला करना होगा। प्यारे देशवासियों, उन सभी चुनौतियों के लिए जो आज हमारे सामने हैं, मेरा प्राचीन देश के रूप में हमारी जन्मजात और विरासत में मिला क्षमता में पूर्ण विश्वास है, जिसकी मूल भावना तथा जीने और उत्कृष्ट कार्य करने की जिजीविषा का भी दमन नहीं किया जा सकता। अनेक बाहरी और आंतरिक शक्तियों ने सहस्राब्दियों से भारत की इस मूल भावना को दबाने का प्रयास किया है, परंतु हर बार यह अपने सम्मुख प्रत्येक चुनौती को समाप्त, आत्मसात और समाहित करके और अधिक शक्तिशाली और यशस्वी होकर उभरी है। भारत ने अपने विशिष्ट सभ्यतागत योगदान के द्वारा अशांत विश्व को बार बार शांति और सौहार्द का संदेश दिया है। 1970 में इतिहासकार आर्नल्ड टॉयनबी ने समकालीन इतिहास में भारत की भूमिका के बारे में कहा था, आज हम विश्व इतिहास के इस संक्रमणकारी युग में जी रहे हैं, परंतु ये पहले ही स्पष्ट होता जा रहा है कि इस पश्चिमी शुरुआत का, यदि इसका अंत मानव जाति के आत्मविनाश से नहीं हो रहा है, तो समापन भारतीय होगा। टॉइनबे ने आगे यह भी कहा कि मानव इतिहास के मुकाम पर मानवता की रक्षा का एकमात्र उपाय भारतीय तरीका है। प्यारे देशवासियों, मैं इस अवसर पर हमारे सैन्य बलों, अर्धसैन्य और आंतरिक सुरक्षा बलों के उन सदस्यों को विशेष बधाई और धन्यवाद देता हूं, जो हमारी मातृभूमि की एकता, अखंडता और सुरक्षा की चौकसी तथा रक्षा इन्हें कायम रखने के लिए अग्रिम सीमाओं पर डटे हुए हैं। अंत में एक बार दोबारा उपनिषद का आह्वान करता हूं, जैसा कि मैंने 4 वर्ष पूर्व स्वतंत्रता दिवस की पूर्व संध्या पर अपने संबोधन में किया था। यह भारत माता की तरह सदैव जीवंत रहेगा। ईश्वर हमारी रक्षा करे, ईश्वर हमारा पोषण करे। हम मिलकर उत्साह और ऊर्जा के साथ कार्य करें। हमारा अध्ययन श्रेष्ठ हो, हमारे बीच कोई वैमनस्य न हो, चारों ओर शांति ही शांति हो। जय हिंद,
जय हिंद,
जय हिंद,
जय हिंद,
जय हिंद।
जय हिंद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और